Your blood pressure reading might be lying to you, and if you are over 60, this could be the reason your doctor has been adjusting your medication when your actual blood pressure may have been normal all along. I'm Dr. Ben Harris, and today I am going to show you the one mistake that causes what I call fake high blood pressure readings, and more importantly, how you can fix it starting today. Here is what makes this tricky. Before we go further, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment right now with your age and your usual top number range. I read these comments and it helps me make videos that actually help people in your situation. Let us begin with item number 1. Do not measure your blood pressure immediately after any activity. This sounds obvious, but it is the most violated rule in home blood pressure monitoring, and it is the single biggest reason for fake high readings. Let me tell you about Gerald. When he came to see me, Gerald was 71 years old and had been checking his blood pressure at home for over 2 years. He was careful. He used a good cuff. He sat in the same chair every time, but his readings were always high. 145, 150, sometimes 156. His doctor kept adjusting his medication, and Gerald kept feeling worse, dizzy, tired, weak in the mornings. When I asked Gerald to walk me through his routine, here is what he told me. He woke up, made his bed, walked to the kitchen, put on the coffee, came back to his bedroom, sat down, wrapped the cuff, and pressed the button. That entire process took about 3 minutes. 3 minutes of walking, bending, reaching, standing. And then he expected his blood pressure to be calm. It was not. His heart was still in motion mode. His blood vessels were still responding to movement, so his reading was inflated. By how much? When we had Gerald sit completely still for 5 full minutes before measuring, his reading dropped to 126. That is a difference of nearly 30 points. His blood pressure was not dangerously high. It was just being measured at the wrong moment. This happens because when you move, your body increases blood flow to your muscles. Your heart beats a little faster. Your blood vessels tighten slightly. All of this is normal, but it takes time to settle. Not 30 seconds, not 2 minutes, 5 full minutes of complete stillness. That is the amount of time your cardiovascular system needs to return to its baseline state after even light activity. Here is how to do it correctly. Sit down in your measuring chair. Do not talk, do not read, do not check your phone. Just sit. Feet flat on the floor, back supported, hands resting in your lap. Breathe normally. After 5 full minutes, then you can wrap the cuff. Then you can press the button, not before. If you have been getting high readings at home and you have not been doing this, there is a very good chance your numbers are higher than your actual blood pressure. This one change alone has fixed fake high readings for more of my patients than any single medication adjustment. Most older adults can do this safely at home. It costs nothing and takes just 5 extra minutes. This supports steadier, more accurate readings. 2. Make sure your cuff is the correct size for your arm. This one is quiet. No one talks about it. But it is responsible for a shocking number of false readings in older adults. Let me tell you about Nadine. Nadine was 68 years old. She had been told her blood pressure was borderline high for over a decade. Not dangerously high, but always a little elevated. 138, 142, 136, hovering just above the threshold. She exercised. She watched her sodium. She slept well. Nothing seemed to bring her numbers down. Then one day, her usual cuff stopped working. She bought a new one. This one came with 2 cuff sizes, and she decided to measure her arm before wrapping it. Her arm circumference was 34 centimeters. The standard cuff that came with her old monitor was rated for arms up to 32 centimeters. She had been using the wrong size for 10 years. When she switched to the larger cuff, her blood pressure reading dropped to 124/78, completely normal. She was never borderline. Her cuff was just too small. Here is why this happens. A blood pressure cuff works by squeezing your arm to temporarily stop blood flow, then slowly releasing while the monitor listens for the return of that flow. If the cuff is too small for your arm, it cannot fully compress the artery. The monitor compensates by reading a higher pressure. It is not your blood pressure that is high. It is the cuff struggling to do its job. This is very common in older adults, especially those with larger or more muscular upper arms. The standard cuff that comes with most home monitors fits arms between 22 and 32 centimeters. If your arm is even slightly larger, you will get falsely elevated readings every single time. Here is how to check. Take a flexible measuring tape. Wrap it around the midpoint of your upper arm, halfway between your shoulder and your elbow. Write down the number. Then look at the size range printed on your cuff. If your arm measurement is outside that range, you need a different cuff. Most manufacturers sell larger cuffs separately. This small adjustment can lower your readings by 10 to 15 points instantly. Not because your blood pressure changed, because you are finally measuring it accurately. This is one of the most overlooked causes of fake high readings, and it is completely fixable. If you have larger arms and you have never checked your cuff size, this could be the answer you have been looking for. This supports steadier, more accurate readings. 3. Keep your arm at heart level during every measurement. This one surprises a lot of people. The position of your arm while the cuff is inflating affects the reading, and not by a little, by a lot. Let me tell you about Warren. Warren was 64 years old. He had just started monitoring his blood pressure at home after his doctor suggested it. He bought a good machine. He followed the instructions, but every time he measured, his reading came back in the high 140s. He was frustrated. He was doing everything else right. Good diet, daily walks, no smoking, no alcohol. When I asked him to describe exactly how he measured, he said he sat on the edge of his bed, wrapped the cuff, and let his arm hang by his side while the cuff inflated. That was the problem. When your arm hangs below the level of your heart, gravity pulls blood downward. The pressure in your lower arm increases, and the monitor reads that increased pressure as your blood pressure. But it is not your true pressure. It is just the effect of gravity on blood pooling. For every inch your arm drops below your heart, your reading can increase by about 2 points. If your arm is hanging 6 inches below your heart, that is an extra 12 points on your reading. Warren was getting 146. When he raised his arm to heart level, his reading dropped to 132. That is a 14-point difference, just from arm position. Here is how to do it correctly. Sit in a chair with a back. Place your arm on a table, desk, or armrest. The middle of your cuff, which is the middle of your upper arm, should be at the same height as your heart. A simple way to check is to see if your cuff is roughly level with your chest, where your heart sits. If you do not have a table nearby, you can rest your arm on a firm pillow. Just make sure it is stable and does not wobble. Your arm should be relaxed. Your palm can face up. Do not clench your fist. Do not grip anything. If you have been measuring with your arm too low, you have been getting artificially high readings. And if you have been measuring with your arm too high, like holding it up or resting it on your shoulder, you have been getting artificially low readings. Heart level is the only accurate position. This is easy to fix and makes a real difference. Most older adults can adjust this at home with a simple pillow or folded towel. This supports steadier, more accurate readings. If you are finding this helpful so far, take a moment to subscribe. I make calm, simple videos on blood pressure and blood sugar for adults over 60, and subscribing makes sure you do not miss the next one. 4. Do not talk, text, or move during the measurement. This one sounds like common sense, but I cannot tell you how many people do exactly this. Let me tell you about Beverly. Beverly was 70 years old and lived alone. She liked to measure her blood pressure in the morning while watching the news. She would sit in her living room, wrap the cuff, and press the button. And while the cuff was inflating, she would glance at the TV, sometimes shift in her seat, and sometimes mumble a comment about whatever was on the screen. Her readings were always a little high, 136, 138, 140. She assumed it was just her body, but one morning the TV was off. The house was quiet. She sat in complete stillness while the cuff inflated. Her reading was 122, 14 points lower than her usual. Nothing had changed except her stillness. Here is why this happens. When you talk, the muscles in your chest, neck, and throat engage. This causes a brief rise in blood pressure. Even a short phrase can raise your reading by 10 to 15 points. When you move, even slightly, your muscles contract, your circulation shifts, and your pressure spikes. When you look around, read something, or follow motion on a screen, your brain is engaged, and that subtle mental activity can also raise your pressure slightly. The most accurate reading happens when you are completely still and completely silent. No phone, no TV, no conversation, no reading, just sitting, breathing slowly, eyes resting. Here is how to do it correctly. Before pressing the button, take one slow breath. Close your eyes or look at a blank wall. Let your hands rest in your lap or on the table next to you. Keep your feet flat on the floor. Do not cross your legs. As the cuff inflates, stay completely still. Do not adjust your glasses. Do not scratch your arm. Do not shift in your chair. Just be still until the cuff fully deflates and the number appears. This sounds simple, but it is the difference between a true reading and a fake one. If your readings have been high and you have been doing anything during the measurement, even something as small as checking your phone, you have likely been adding points to your number. Stillness is one of the easiest ways to lower your reading without changing anything else. This supports steadier, more accurate readings. And here is something important I want to mention. If you also check your blood sugar, this same principle applies. Any physical or mental stress, even mild, can raise both blood pressure and blood sugar at the same time. Stress hormones affect both systems. So if you are someone who monitors both, and many adults over 60 do, know that calm, quiet preparation before any measurement helps you get true numbers. This is one reason I encourage sitting still before any kind of home health check. It is a small habit that makes a big difference. Let us move on. 5. Empty your bladder before you measure. This is one of the most common causes of fake high readings, and almost no one thinks about it. Let me tell you about Marvin. Marvin was 73 years old. He had a set routine every morning. He woke up, made his coffee, sat down at his kitchen table, and measured his blood pressure. He was consistent. He was careful, but his numbers were always a little high in the morning. 140, 142, 138. His afternoon numbers were usually 10 points lower. He assumed his blood pressure was just higher in the mornings, but then one day he used the bathroom first. Just a simple change to his routine. That morning, his reading was 128, 12 points lower than usual, and it stayed lower every morning after that, as long as he emptied his bladder first. Here is why this happens. When your bladder is full, it puts pressure on the organs around it. Your body responds by activating stress signals, including a mild increase in blood pressure. This can raise your reading by 10 to 15 points. You might not even feel like your bladder is very full, but if you have had coffee, tea, or water, or if it has been several hours since you last used the bathroom, there is likely some pressure building, and that pressure affects your reading. Here is how to do it correctly. Before you sit down to measure, use the bathroom. Even if you do not feel a strong urge, then sit down, rest for 5 minutes, and measure. This one habit can eliminate a lot of the morning spikes that people blame on their body or their medication. It is simple, free, and effective. Most older adults can make this part of their morning routine easily. This supports steadier, more accurate readings. 6. Wait at least 30 minutes after eating or drinking caffeine before you measure. Timing matters more than most people realize. And this one catches a lot of early morning measurers off guard. Let me tell you about Helen. Helen was 69 years old. She measured her blood pressure every day at 7:30 in the morning, right after breakfast. Her routine was always the same. She would eat a bowl of oatmeal with fruit, drink a cup of coffee, then sit in her living room and wrap the cuff. Her readings were consistently in the high 130s, 136, 138, 140. Her doctor mentioned possibly adding another medication if her numbers did not come down, but before doing that, I asked Helen to try something. Move her measurement time to before breakfast, just for 1 week. Her readings dropped to 124 on average. She did not need more medication. She needed better timing. Here is why this happens. When you eat, your digestive system gets to work. Blood flow shifts toward your stomach and intestines. Your heart works a little harder to manage this shift. And for some people, especially older adults, blood pressure rises temporarily after a meal. This is called postprandial blood pressure response, and it is very common in people over 60. On top of that, Caffeine, even in small amounts, can raise blood pressure by 5 to 10 points. If you drink coffee or tea and then measure right after, you are not measuring your resting pressure. You are measuring your body's response to the caffeine. Here is how to do it correctly. Wait at least 30 minutes after eating or drinking caffeine before measuring. If possible, measure before breakfast entirely. If you cannot do that, wait until mid-morning, at least an hour after your last food or drink. And if you are measuring in the afternoon, avoid measuring right after lunch. The best readings come from a body at rest, with no digestive activity, no caffeine, and no recent food. This is easy to adjust and makes a real difference. If your numbers have been high and you have been measuring right after a meal or coffee, try shifting your timing. You might be surprised at the change. This supports steadier, more accurate readings. Before we continue, here is a quick reminder. If you have not subscribed yet, now is a good time. I release new videos regularly, all focused on blood pressure and blood sugar for adults over 60. Calm, simple, no hype. Just practical tips you can use right away. Let us keep going. 7. Take more than one reading and use the average. One reading is not enough. This surprises a lot of people. They assume if the machine gives them a number, that number is their blood pressure. But it is not that simple. Let me tell you about Leonard. Leonard was 75 years old. He checked his blood pressure once every morning, one reading. Whatever it said, he wrote down. And his numbers varied wildly. 132 one day, 148 the next, 126 the day after. He was confused. He was worried. He did not know what his real blood pressure was. So I asked him to try something different. Take 3 readings in a row, each one minute apart. Then ignore the first one and average the second and third. When he did this, his numbers became much more consistent. And the average was usually around 129. Much lower than some of his single readings. Much more stable. Here is why this happens. Your first reading is often the highest. Your body is still settling. Your mind might be slightly anxious about the result. Your muscles might still be adjusting. After that first reading, your body calms. Your pressure settles. And the second and third readings are usually lower and more accurate. This is why most clinical guidelines recommend taking at least 2 readings, 1 minute apart, and using the average. Some suggest ignoring the first reading entirely. Here is how to do it correctly. After your 5-minute rest, take your first reading, write it down, wait 1 minute. Take your second reading, write it down, wait 1 minute. Take your third reading, write it down. Then average the second and third readings. That average is your blood pressure for the day. This gives you a much more accurate picture than any single reading ever could. If you have been relying on one number each day, and that number has been high, there is a good chance your real average is lower. This one habit gives you consistency and confidence. Most older adults can do this at home without any special equipment. Just a little extra time. This supports steadier, more accurate readings. Let us finish with one more for now. 8. Address the hidden anxiety around measuring. This is the one most people do not want to talk about. But it is real, and it might be affecting your readings more than you realize. Let me tell you about Dolores. Dolores was 70 years old. She had always had good blood pressure, but a few years ago she had one high reading at a doctor's visit. Just one. It scared her. From that day forward, every time she sat down to measure, she felt a knot in her stomach. She would wrap the cuff and her mind would start racing. What if it is high? What if I need more medication? What if something is wrong? And her reading would come back elevated, not because her blood pressure was actually high, but because her fear was raising it. This is called white coat hypertension when it happens in a medical setting, but it can also happen at home. If you feel nervous before you measure, if you dread the number, if you hold your breath while the cuff inflates, your body responds with a stress reaction. Your heart beats faster, your blood vessels tighten, and your reading goes up. For Dolores, this was adding 15 points to every measurement. Once we addressed the anxiety, her readings dropped back to normal. Here is why this happens. Your body cannot tell the difference between physical stress and emotional stress. When you feel anxious, your nervous system activates, adrenaline flows, blood pressure rises, and if you are measuring in that moment, You capture the stress, not your resting level. Here is how to do it correctly. Before you measure, take 2 or 3 slow, deep breaths. In through your nose for 4 seconds. Out through your mouth for 6 seconds. Let your shoulders drop. Unclench your jaw. Relax your hands. Remind yourself that this is just information. One reading does not define your health. If your number is high, you can take another reading in a few minutes. There is no emergency. There is no judgment, just data. Some people find it helpful to measure at a consistent time each day, so the routine becomes familiar and less stressful. Others find it helpful to look away from the screen while the cuff inflates, so they are not watching and waiting. If you have been dreading your blood pressure readings and your numbers have been high, it is worth asking whether the fear itself is part of the problem. This is more common than people realize, and it is completely fixable with calm, consistent practice. This supports steadier, more accurate readings. And here is a brief note about safety. If you ever experience chest pain, fainting, severe shortness of breath, or one-sided weakness, do not wait to check your blood pressure. Those symptoms need emergency care right away. But for routine home monitoring, these 8 habits can help you get readings that actually reflect what is happening in your body. Not fake highs from bad timing or poor preparation. Real numbers you can trust. That wraps up the first half of what I want to share with you today. We have covered the 8 most common reasons for fake high blood pressure readings at home and how to fix each one. Now that you know the 8 most common mistakes that cause fake high blood pressure readings, let us talk about something just as important. What to do once your readings are accurate. Because accurate numbers are only useful if you know what to do with them. And many people, once they start measuring correctly, realize their blood pressure is actually fine. But some people, even after fixing their technique, still see numbers that are higher than they want. This next section is for both groups. Whether your blood pressure is now accurate and normal, or accurate and still elevated, what I am about to share will help. Let me start with something that often gets missed. 9. Check the time of day you are measuring. Blood pressure is not a fixed number. It moves throughout the day, and if you only measure at one time, you might be catching a peak or a valley and missing the full picture. Let me tell you about Curtis. Curtis was 66 years old. He measured his blood pressure every morning at 6:30 right after waking, and his readings were always a little high, 136, 138, 140. He assumed this was just his normal, but his doctor suggested adding an evening reading to see if his blood pressure changed throughout the day. So Curtis started measuring again at 8 in the evening, and his evening readings were dramatically different, 118, 122, 120, much lower. It turned out that Curtis had what is called a morning surge. His blood pressure spiked in the early hours, then settled down as the day went on. Once he and his doctor understood this pattern, they adjusted his medication timing. Instead of taking his pill in the morning, he took it at night, and his morning readings came down to 124. Same medication, same dose, just better timing. Here is why this happens. Your blood pressure naturally rises in the early morning as your body prepares to wake up. This is driven by hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. For some people, this rise is steep. For others, it is gentle. And in some people, blood pressure actually stays elevated in the evening, which is a different pattern that also matters. Measuring at just one time of day can hide these patterns. Here is how to do it correctly. Try to measure at 2 consistent times each day. Once in the morning, within an hour of waking, before breakfast and medication, and once in the evening, before dinner if possible. Keep a simple log. Write down the date, time, and both numbers. After a week or two, look for patterns. Are your morning readings higher? Are your evening readings lower? Is there a spike at a particular time? This information helps your doctor understand your unique pattern and adjust your care accordingly. Most older adults can do this at home with no special tools, just a notebook and a consistent schedule. This supports steadier, more accurate readings over time. 10. Stay hydrated, especially in the morning. Dehydration is one of the sneaky causes of blood pressure changes in older adults, and it is very common. Let me tell you about Miriam. Miriam was 72 years old. She had been told her blood pressure was a little unstable. Some days it was high, some days it was low. Her doctor could not find a pattern. When I asked Miriam about her water intake, she admitted she did not drink much, 1 or 2 glasses a day, sometimes less. She did not feel thirsty, so she did not think about it. But here is the thing. As we get older, our sense of thirst becomes less reliable. We can be dehydrated without feeling thirsty, and dehydration affects blood pressure in 2 ways. First, when you are dehydrated, your blood volume drops. There is less fluid in your system. This can cause blood pressure to drop, especially when standing up quickly. But your body also responds to dehydration by tightening blood vessels to maintain pressure. This can cause blood pressure to rise. So depending on the day, dehydration can push your pressure in either direction. For Miriam, we added a simple goal: 1 full glass of water within the first 30 minutes of waking, and at least 5 to 6 glasses throughout the day. Within 2 weeks, her readings became more stable, fewer swings, more consistency. Here's how to do it correctly. Start your day with a glass of water before coffee, tea, or breakfast. Keep a water bottle or glass nearby throughout the day as a visual reminder. Do not wait until you feel thirsty. By that point, you may already be mildly dehydrated. Aim for at least 6 to 8 glasses of water a day, unless your doctor has told you to limit fluids for a specific medical reason. If you are someone whose blood pressure varies a lot from reading to reading, hydration might be part of the issue. This is easy to adjust and costs nothing. This supports steadier, more accurate readings. If you have been enjoying this video, take a moment to subscribe. I make videos just like this every week, focused on blood pressure and blood sugar for adults over 60. No hype, no fear, just calm, practical tips. Now let us continue. 11. Add a short walk after meals. This one has double benefits. It helps blood pressure and it helps blood sugar. Let me tell you about Walter. Walter was 69 years old. He had been told his blood pressure was borderline high, and his blood sugar was creeping up too. His doctor suggested adding some exercise, but Walter had bad knees. He could not jog. He could not do stairs easily. He felt stuck. So we tried something simple. A 10-minute walk after dinner. Not fast, not far. Just a slow loop around his neighborhood. Something his knees could handle. After 3 weeks, Walter's blood pressure dropped by about 7 points. And his blood sugar, which he had started checking after meals, dropped by about 15 points. He was not curing anything, but he was giving his body a gentle push in the right direction. Here is why this happens. After a meal, your blood sugar rises as food is digested. If you sit still, that sugar stays in your bloodstream longer. But if you walk, even slowly, your muscles use some of that sugar for energy. Your blood sugar comes down faster. At the same time, walking helps relax blood vessels. It improves circulation, it reduces tension, and over time, it supports healthier blood pressure. This is not about intense exercise. It is about gentle movement. Here is how to do it correctly. Within 30 to 60 minutes after eating, take a 10 to 15-minute walk. Keep the pace slow and comfortable. If you use a cane or walker, bring it. If you have balance concerns, walk inside or in a safe area. The goal is not to break a sweat. It is just to move your muscles gently. This is easy on the joints. Most older adults can do this safely. If you have significant mobility issues, talk to your doctor about seated exercises or other alternatives. This supports steadier blood pressure and steadier blood sugar over time. 12. Reduce sodium gradually, not all at once. You have probably heard that salt affects blood pressure, and for many people, it does. But the way you reduce it matters. Let me tell you about Elaine. Elaine was a wonderful cook in her younger years. But she had stopped cooking her favorite meals because her doctor told her to go on a low-salt diet. She felt like everything she made tasted bland, so she stopped eating much at all. Her appetite dropped, her energy dropped, and her blood pressure did not improve. When I talked with Elaine, we tried a different approach. Instead of cutting all salt at once, we reduced it slowly, just a little less each week. And we focused on adding more flavor with herbs, lemon, garlic, and spices that she actually enjoyed. After a month, Elaine was eating well again. She had energy again, and her blood pressure had come down by 6 points. She did not feel deprived. She just felt healthier. Here is why this happens. Your taste buds adapt over time. If you cut salt suddenly, everything tastes flat. You stop enjoying food, you eat less, you may even lose important nutrients. But if you reduce salt gradually, your taste buds adjust. After a few weeks, the same amount of salt tastes just as flavorful as before, and your blood pressure benefits from the slow, steady change. Here is how to do it correctly. Start by reducing salt in one meal a day. Maybe use half the amount you normally would. After a week, reduce it a little more. Keep going slowly. Replace some of the salt with herbs like basil, oregano, rosemary, or thyme. Use garlic, onion, lemon juice, or vinegar to add depth. Avoid adding salt at the table. Let the food you cook be the only source. And check labels. Many packaged foods are high in sodium even if they do not taste salty. This approach is sustainable and gentle. You can do this at home with foods you already enjoy. This supports steadier readings over time. 13. Practice slow breathing for 5 minutes a day. This is one of the simplest things you can do for blood pressure, and it has real effects. Let me tell you about Rose. Rose was 67 years old. She had retired recently and was adjusting to a slower pace of life, but her blood pressure had crept up over the past few years. She was not stressed, she said. She felt fine, but her body told a different story. When I asked Rose to try 5 minutes of slow, deep breathing each day, she was skeptical. It seemed too simple, but she tried it anyway. After a few weeks, her blood pressure dropped by about 5 points, and she said she felt calmer, slept better, and had fewer headaches. Here is why this happens. Slow breathing activates your parasympathetic nervous system. That is the part of your nervous system that calms you down. It lowers your heart rate, it relaxes your blood vessels, and it reduces the overall tension in your body. When you breathe quickly or shallowly, the opposite happens. Your body stays in a mild stress state. Your blood pressure stays elevated. Slow breathing interrupts that pattern. Here is how to do it correctly. Sit or lie down in a comfortable position. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Breathe in slowly through your nose for 4 to 5 seconds. Breathe out slowly through your mouth for 6 to 8 seconds. Focus on making the exhale longer than the inhale. Do this once a day, ideally at the same time each day, so it becomes a habit. You can do it in the morning before measuring your blood pressure. You can do it before bed. You can do it during a break in the afternoon. It costs nothing, takes just a few minutes, and has no side effects. Most older adults can do this safely at home. If you have severe breathing problems or lung conditions, ask your doctor first. This supports steadier readings over time. Here's a quick safety note. If you are taking blood pressure medication, do not change your dose or stop taking it based on your home readings alone. Always talk to your doctor first. Home monitoring is helpful, but it works best as a partnership with your medical team. 14. Prioritize sleep, especially if you snore. Sleep affects blood pressure more than most people realize, and poor sleep is very common in older adults. Let me tell you about Donald. Donald was 70 years old. He had been told his blood pressure was high despite being on 2 medications. He followed his diet. He walked every day, but nothing seemed to bring his numbers down. When I asked about his sleep, Donald shrugged. He slept about 6 hours a night. He woke up a few times to use the bathroom, and his wife had mentioned that he snored loudly. We arranged a sleep study. It turned out Donald had moderate sleep apnea. He was waking up dozens of times each night without realizing it. His body was never fully resting, and that chronic stress was keeping his blood pressure high. Once he started using a CPAP machine at night, his blood pressure dropped by nearly 15 points over a few months. Here is why this happens. When you have sleep apnea, your airway partially or fully closes during sleep. You stop breathing for a few seconds, your oxygen drops, your body panics briefly and wakes you up just enough to restart breathing. This happens over and over, and every time, your blood pressure spikes. Even if you do not have apnea, poor sleep in general raises stress hormones and keeps blood pressure elevated. Here is how to improve. Try to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep each night. Keep your bedroom cool and dark. Avoid caffeine after noon. Limit fluids in the evening to reduce nighttime bathroom trips. If you snore or if you wake up tired even after a full night, talk to your doctor about a sleep evaluation. Sleep problems are treatable, and treating them can make a real difference in your blood pressure. This supports steadier readings over time. 15. Track trends, not single numbers. This is one of the most important mindset shifts you can make, and it helps reduce the anxiety around measuring. Let me tell you about Franklin. Franklin was 73 years old. He measured his blood pressure every day, and every high reading sent him into a spiral. 142 on a Tuesday, he worried for hours. He paced, he could not sleep. But when I looked at his log, his average over the past month was 129. That is a healthy number. He had occasional spikes, but his overall trend was stable. He was focused on the outliers, not the average, and it was causing unnecessary stress. Here is why this matters. Blood pressure is not a fixed number. It changes throughout the day. It changes depending on what you ate, how you slept, whether you are stressed, and dozens of other factors. A single high reading is not a diagnosis. A pattern of high readings over weeks is what matters. When you focus on trends, you see the bigger picture. You stop panicking over one bad number. You start making changes based on your average, not your worst day. Here is how to do it correctly. Keep a simple log. Write down your readings each day, both morning and evening if possible. At the end of each week, calculate your average. At the end of each month, look at how your weekly averages are changing. If your average is stable or improving, you are on the right track. If your average is creeping up over time, that is worth discussing with your doctor. But a single spike by itself is not a crisis. It is just information. This approach reduces stress and gives you real insight into your health. This supports steadier, more accurate readings. Now let me share something that many people do not realize. Blood pressure and blood sugar are often connected. If you are an older adult managing one, you are more likely to also deal with the other. High blood pressure and high blood sugar often travel together. They share some of the same root causes, like excess weight, poor sleep, lack of movement, and chronic stress. And the habits that help one usually help the other. Walking after meals helps both. Sleeping well helps both. Managing stress helps both. Staying hydrated helps both. So if you have been focused only on blood pressure, it might be worth checking your blood sugar too. And if you have been focused only on blood sugar, it might be worth checking your blood pressure. Talk to your doctor about what makes sense for you. 16. Build a consistent routine and trust it. This is the final piece. Let me tell you about Patricia. Patricia was 68 years old. She had been monitoring her blood pressure at home for about a year, but her results were all over the place. Some days she measured in the morning, some days in the evening, some days she sat in the kitchen, some days on the couch. Some days she rested beforehand, some days she did not. There was no consistency, and because of that, there was no clarity. When we helped Patricia build a routine, everything changed. Same time, same place, same chair, same 5-minute rest, same 3 readings, same calm breathing. After just 2 weeks, her numbers became more stable. And after a month, her average dropped by 6 points. Not because of medication, because of routine. Here is why this matters. Your body thrives on consistency. When you measure at the same time each day in the same conditions, you remove all the variables that cause fake spikes. You are comparing like to like, and your readings become reliable. When you trust your routine, you also reduce anxiety. You stop worrying about whether you did something wrong. You just follow your steps, and the numbers take care of themselves. Here is how to do it correctly. Pick a time of day that works for you. Morning is often best, before food and medication. Pick a place in your home that is quiet and comfortable. Use the same chair. Use the same table for your arm. Follow the same preparation steps every time. Empty your bladder. Sit for 5 minutes. Keep your arm at heart level. Do not talk. Take 3 readings, 1 minute apart. Write them down. Average the second and third. Do this every day, or at least most days. After a few weeks, you will have a clear, trustworthy picture of your blood pressure. This is the foundation of good home monitoring, and it is something you can do entirely on your own. This supports steadier, more accurate readings. Now let me leave you with one final thought. If you have been getting high blood pressure readings at home, there is a real chance that some of them were fake. Not because you were trying to cheat, not because your machine is broken, but because of small, invisible mistakes in your routine. The good news is that these mistakes are easy to fix. You can fix them today, and when you do, you might discover that your real blood pressure is lower than you thought. Or you might discover that your blood pressure truly is elevated, and now you can work with your doctor on real solutions based on real numbers. Either way, you will have clarity, and clarity is powerful. 17. Remove tight clothing before measuring and never roll your sleeve up tightly. This one sounds minor, but it can add several points to your reading without you realizing it. Let me tell you about Ernest. Ernest was 71 years old. He measured his blood pressure every morning, always in the same chair, always after resting for 5 minutes. He did everything by the book, but his readings were consistently higher in the winter than in the summer, not by a little, by 10 to 12 points. At first, he assumed it was the cold weather affecting his blood vessels. That can happen. But when we looked closer, the real cause was simpler. In the summer, Ernest wore short-sleeved shirts. He wrapped the cuff directly on his bare arm. In the winter, he wore long-sleeved flannel shirts, and instead of removing his shirt, he rolled up the sleeve tightly above his bicep, then wrapped the cuff below it. That tight roll of fabric was acting like a tourniquet. It was squeezing the top of his arm, restricting blood flow, and causing his readings to spike. When Ernest started removing his shirt entirely before measuring, his winter readings dropped right back down to match his summer ones. Here is why this happens. A blood pressure cuff needs to compress your artery evenly and fully. If there is any restriction above the cuff, whether from a tight sleeve, a rolled-up fabric band, or even a snug sweater, blood flow is partially blocked before the cuff even inflates. The monitor then reads artificially high pressure because the artery is already under strain. Even clothing that does not feel tight can cause this if it bunches up when rolled. Here is how to do it correctly. Always measure on a bare arm. If you are wearing a long-sleeved shirt, remove it entirely or switch to a short-sleeved shirt before measuring. Do not roll the sleeve up. Do not push the sleeve above your bicep and leave it there. Do not measure over thin fabric either, even if it seems loose. Bare skin gives the most accurate reading. If your home is cold, warm up the room before measuring, or wrap a blanket around your shoulders while keeping your measuring arm bare. This takes just a few seconds and eliminates a hidden source of error. Most older adults can do this easily at home. This supports steadier, more accurate readings. 18. Keep your back fully supported against the chair. This one is easy to overlook. Many people sit on the edge of their chair when measuring, or they lean forward slightly. Both of these positions affect blood pressure. Let me tell you about Norma. Norma was 65 years old. She had recently started checking her blood pressure at home after a slightly high reading at her doctor's office. She wanted to make sure she was doing it right, but every time she measured at home, her readings were high. 138, 140, 142. She was worried. When I asked Norma to describe her setup, she said she sat at her kitchen table. Good so far. But then she mentioned that her chair was a little too far from the table, so she scooted forward and perched on the edge of the seat to get her arm in the right position. Her back was not touching the chair. Her core muscles were engaged to keep her upright, and her body was working harder than it needed to, which raised her blood pressure. When Norma pulled her chair closer to the table and sat all the way back, her reading dropped to 126. 12 points lower, same time of day, same cuff, same arm, just better posture. Here is why this happens. When you sit without back support, your core muscles activate. Your body is essentially doing a very mild exercise just to stay upright. This engages your cardiovascular system slightly. Your heart beats a little faster, your blood vessels tighten slightly, and your blood pressure rises. Sitting all the way back with your spine fully supported allows your muscles to relax completely. Your body enters a true resting state, and your blood pressure reflects that rest. Here is how to do it correctly. Choose a chair with a full back. Sit all the way back so your spine touches the backrest. Do not lean forward. Do not perch on the edge. If the chair is too far from the table, move the table or use a different setup. Your feet should be flat on the floor. Your knees should be at about a 90-degree angle. If your feet do not reach the floor comfortably, use a footstool or a stack of books. This position supports accurate readings and reduces unnecessary strain. Most older adults can adjust their setup easily. This supports steadier, more accurate readings. Before we continue, here is a reminder. If you are finding this helpful, subscribe to the channel. I post calm, practical videos on blood pressure and blood sugar for adults over 60. No drama. No hype. Just simple tips that work. Let us keep going. 19. Do not cross your legs during measurement. This is one of the easiest mistakes to make, and one of the easiest to fix. Let me tell you about Victor. Victor was 74 years old. He was a retired accountant, very detail-oriented. He tracked his blood pressure in a spreadsheet. He measured at the same time every day. He rested for exactly 5 minutes. But his numbers were always a few points higher than he expected, not dramatically, just consistently above 130. One day, his wife watched him measure and noticed something. He was sitting with his legs crossed, right ankle resting on his left knee, comfortable, natural. He did not even think about it. But when he uncrossed his legs and placed both feet flat on the floor, his reading dropped by 8 points. It was that simple. Here is why this happens. Crossing your legs compresses blood vessels in your thighs and lower legs. This forces your heart to pump harder to push blood through. It also shifts your posture slightly, engaging muscles you do not need. Both of these effects raise blood pressure. Studies have shown that crossing your legs during a blood pressure measurement can increase your systolic reading, the top number, by 2 to 8 points. For someone on the borderline, that is the difference between being told you are fine and being told you need medication. Here is how to do it correctly. Sit with both feet flat on the floor. Keep your knees about hip width apart. Do not cross your ankles either. Even a small cross at the ankles can have a mild effect. If you have a habit of crossing your legs, consciously uncross them before you start your 5-minute rest period. Let your legs settle, let the blood flow freely, then measure. This is a small change that makes a measurable difference. Most older adults can do this with no difficulty. This supports steadier, more accurate readings. 20. Measure in a room with a comfortable temperature. Extreme temperatures, especially cold, can affect your blood pressure, and this one catches a lot of people off guard during winter months. Let me tell you about Doris. Doris was 69 years old. She lived alone in a small house and kept the heat low to save money. In the mornings, especially in January and February, her house was cold, around 60 degrees. She would wake up, bundle up in a sweater, sit in her chilly kitchen, and measure her blood pressure. Her readings were always high in the winter, 140, 144, sometimes 148. In the summer, when her house was warm, her readings dropped back down to 128. She thought it was something wrong with her body, but when we looked at the pattern, it matched her thermostat almost perfectly. Here is why this happens. When your body is cold, your blood vessels constrict. This is a natural response to preserve heat. Your body pulls blood away from your skin and toward your core to keep your vital organs warm. But constricted blood vessels mean higher resistance, and higher resistance means higher blood pressure readings. You are not measuring your resting blood pressure. You are measuring your body's response to cold. Here is how to do it correctly. Before measuring, make sure the room is comfortably warm. Around 68 to 72 degrees is ideal. If you keep your house cool, consider warming up the room where you measure before you start. You can use a small space heater for a few minutes, or simply measure in a warmer room. If your hands are cold, warm them before wrapping the cuff. Cold hands can also affect circulation in your arm and alter your reading. Avoid measuring right after coming in from outside in cold weather. Give your body time to warm up and settle. This is especially important in the winter months. If your readings spike every winter and drop every summer, room temperature might be part of the reason. This supports steadier, more accurate readings. 21. Avoid alcohol for at least 12 hours before measuring. Alcohol has a complicated relationship with blood pressure, and if you drink even moderately, it can affect your readings in ways you might not expect. Let me tell you about Raymond. Raymond was 72 years old. He enjoyed a glass of wine with dinner most nights, sometimes two. He measured his blood pressure every morning, about 12 hours after his last drink. But his readings were often higher than expected, 136, 138. His doctor had mentioned that alcohol could raise blood pressure, so Raymond tried an experiment. He skipped the wine for 1 full week, and he measured his blood pressure each morning as usual. By day 3, his readings started dropping. By day 7, his average was 124. When he reintroduced the wine, his readings crept back up within a few days. It was clear. The alcohol was affecting his morning numbers. Here is why this happens. Alcohol affects blood pressure in 2 phases. In the first few hours after drinking, blood pressure often drops slightly as blood vessels relax. But several hours later, as the alcohol is metabolized, blood pressure tends to rise. This rebound effect can last well into the next day. For many people, especially older adults, even 1 or 2 drinks in the evening can elevate morning blood pressure readings. Here is how to do it correctly. If you drink alcohol, try to avoid it for at least 12 hours before measuring. If you drink in the evening, consider measuring later in the day, after the alcohol effect has worn off. Or try a few days without alcohol and compare your readings. If your readings are consistently lower on alcohol-free days, that tells you something important about how your body responds. This does not mean you have to stop drinking entirely, but it does mean you should account for alcohol's effect when interpreting your numbers. And if you are trying to get the most accurate baseline reading, it is best to measure after at least a full day without any alcohol. Most older adults can make this adjustment easily. This supports steadier, more accurate readings. If you are enjoying this video, take a moment to drop a comment below. Let me know your age and what time of day you usually measure. I read every comment, and your feedback helps me make better videos for you. Now let us continue. 22. Consider seasonal changes in your readings. Blood pressure is not static. It changes with the seasons, and if you do not know this, you might think something is wrong when your numbers shift. Let me tell you about Lillian. Lillian was 66 years old. She had been tracking her blood pressure for about 2 years. She noticed that every winter her readings crept up, and every summer they came back down. She worried that she was developing a worsening condition. But when we looked at her logs alongside her location's weather patterns, the explanation was simple. Her blood pressure followed the temperature. Colder months meant higher readings. Warmer months meant lower readings. This is completely normal. Here is why this happens. In cold weather, your blood vessels constrict to preserve body heat. This increases the resistance your heart has to pump against. Your blood pressure rises. In warm weather, your blood vessels relax and dilate. Blood flows more easily. Your blood pressure drops. This seasonal variation can be as much as 5 to 10 points on your systolic reading. For some people, it is even more. It does not mean your health is getting worse in the winter. It means your body is responding to the environment. Here is how to use this information. If you notice your readings are higher in the winter and lower in the summer, do not panic. Make a note of the pattern. Share it with your doctor. Understand that some seasonal variation is expected. If your winter readings are significantly elevated, like 150 or higher, talk to your doctor about temporary adjustments. Some people benefit from a slight medication increase in winter and a slight decrease in summer, but this should always be done with medical guidance. Never adjust your medication on your own. Knowing about seasonal patterns helps you interpret your readings more accurately. It reduces unnecessary worry, and it helps you and your doctor make better decisions. This supports steadier, more accurate understanding of your blood pressure over time. 23. Add potassium-rich foods to your daily routine. You have probably heard a lot about reducing sodium, but you might not have heard as much about increasing potassium. And for blood pressure, potassium matters just as much. Let me tell you about Samuel. Samuel was 70 years old. He had been on a low-sodium diet for over a year. He read labels carefully, he avoided processed foods, he rarely added salt to anything, but his blood pressure was still borderline high, 134, 136, it would not budge. When I asked Samuel about his diet, he listed all the things he avoided, but when I asked what he ate instead, the list was short. Mostly bread, pasta, rice, and chicken, not many vegetables, not much fruit. He had cut out sodium but had not added potassium. We made a simple change. 1 banana at breakfast, a small serving of spinach at lunch, a baked sweet potato at dinner a few times a week. After about 6 weeks, Samuel's average blood pressure dropped to 128, still in a healthy range but noticeably lower, and he felt better too. More energy, fewer headaches. Here is why this happens. Potassium helps your body flush out excess sodium through your urine. It also helps relax the walls of your blood vessels. Both of these effects lower blood pressure. When your diet is low in potassium, even a low-sodium diet may not work as well as it should. You need both. Less sodium coming in and more potassium helping push it out. Here is how to do it correctly. Add potassium-rich foods to your meals. Good sources include bananas, oranges, potatoes, sweet potatoes, spinach, tomatoes, beans, and yogurt. You do not need to eat huge amounts. Just include 1 or 2 servings each day. If you have kidney disease, talk to your doctor before increasing potassium. People with kidney problems sometimes need to limit potassium intake, but for most older adults, adding more potassium is safe and beneficial. This is a gentle dietary change that supports healthier blood pressure over time. Most older adults can do this at home with foods they already enjoy. This supports steadier readings over time. 24. Include simple strength exercises for long-term benefit. Walking is wonderful, but for blood pressure, adding a little strength work can make a real difference over time. Let me tell you about Arthur. Arthur was 68 years old. He walked every day, 30 minutes around his neighborhood. His blood pressure was decent, usually around 130, but it had been stuck there for years. It would not come down any further. His doctor suggested adding some light resistance exercises. Nothing fancy, no gym required, just simple movements at home. Arthur started with wall push-ups, 10 in the morning, 10 in the evening. Then he added chair squats, sitting down into a chair and standing back up. 10 repetitions, twice a day. After 2 months, his blood pressure dropped to 124. And he noticed something else. He felt stronger. Getting up from chairs was easier. Carrying groceries was easier. He had more confidence in his body. Here is why this happens. Strength training, even light strength training, improves the health of your blood vessels. It makes them more flexible and responsive. It also improves how your body uses insulin, which connects to blood sugar stability, and better blood sugar stability often supports better blood pressure. Over time, regular strength work reduces the stiffness that builds up in arteries as we age. This helps blood flow more smoothly, and that means lower pressure. Here's how to do it correctly. Start with simple exercises you can do at home. Wall push-ups are gentle on the joints. Stand facing a wall, place your hands on the wall at shoulder height, and slowly bend and straighten your arms. Chair squats are also gentle. Stand in front of a sturdy chair, lower yourself down as if you are going to sit, then stand back up. Use the chair for support if needed. Aim for 2 to 3 sessions per week. 10 to 15 repetitions of each exercise. Go slowly. Focus on control, not speed. If you have joint problems, balance issues, or heart conditions, talk to your doctor before starting. Most older adults can do light strength work safely with proper guidance. This is easy on the joints when done correctly. It requires no equipment, and it builds a foundation for healthier blood pressure long term. This supports steadier readings over time. Here is a brief safety note. If you have any history of heart disease, uncontrolled high blood pressure, or recent surgery, check with your doctor before starting any new exercise routine. These exercises are gentle, but everyone's situation is different. Better to be safe. Now let us talk about something that connects everything we have discussed. 25. Understand that blood pressure and blood sugar often move together. I have mentioned this briefly before, but it is worth spending a little more time on. Because if you are over 60 and managing blood pressure, there is a good chance blood sugar is also part of your picture. Let me tell you about Margaret. Margaret was 73 years old. She had been on blood pressure medication for 8 years. Her readings were usually around 132, not terrible but not great. Her doctor had recently started checking her blood sugar too, and her fasting numbers were in the pre-diabetic range, around 105. Margaret was surprised. She did not think of herself as someone with blood sugar problems. But here is the thing. High blood pressure and high blood sugar often travel together. They share common causes, and they reinforce each other. When Margaret started making changes to support her blood pressure improved too. The walking after meals helped both. The better sleep helped both. The reduced stress helped both. Within 3 months, her blood pressure dropped to 124 and her fasting sugar dropped to 96. She was not treating them separately. She was treating her whole body. Here is why this connection matters. High blood sugar over time damages blood vessels. It makes them stiffer and less responsive. This increases blood pressure. High blood pressure puts stress on the heart and kidneys. This affects how your body processes sugar. They feed into each other. But the good news is that the habits that help one usually help the other. Walking helps both. Better sleep helps both. Stress reduction helps both. Healthy eating helps both. If you have been focused only on blood pressure, consider asking your doctor to check your blood sugar too. And if you have been focused only on blood sugar, consider monitoring your blood pressure. Understanding both gives you a more complete picture of your health. This supports steadier readings across the board. 26. Do not check too often. This one might surprise you, but checking your blood pressure too frequently can actually work against you. Let me tell you about Howard. Howard was 69 years old. After a high reading at the doctor's office, he became very focused on his blood pressure. He bought a home monitor and started checking, multiple times a day. Morning, noon, evening, and sometimes in between. Every time he got a reading he did not like, he would check again and again and again, sometimes 6 or 7 times in a row. He thought he was being careful, but what he was actually doing was creating anxiety, and that anxiety was raising his blood pressure. His readings were all over the place, some high, some low, no consistency. When I suggested that Howard limit himself to 2 measurements per day, morning and evening, his readings stabilized, and his anxiety dropped. He stopped obsessing. He started trusting the process. Here is why this happens. Every time you check your blood pressure, there is a small emotional response. Will it be high? Will it be low? What does it mean? If you check too often, you keep triggering that response. Your body stays on edge. Your blood pressure never fully settles, and you end up chasing numbers instead of understanding them. Here is how to do it correctly. Limit yourself to 1 or 2 measurement sessions per day. Morning and evening is a good pattern. At each session, take 2 or 3 readings, 1 minute apart, and average them. Write down the average, then put the monitor away. Do not check again until your next scheduled session. Resist the urge to recheck after a high reading. One high reading does not mean anything by itself. Trends over weeks are what matter. If you find yourself checking compulsively, take a break. Skip a day or 2. Your blood pressure is not going to change dramatically in one day. Give yourself permission to step back. This approach reduces stress and gives you more reliable data over time. This supports steadier, more accurate readings. Here is a final reminder about safety. If you ever experience sudden severe headache, chest pain, difficulty breathing, confusion, one-sided weakness, or vision changes, seek emergency care immediately. Do not wait to check your blood pressure. These symptoms require urgent attention. For routine monitoring, the habits we have discussed today are designed to give you accurate, reliable readings you can trust. But they are not a substitute for medical care. Always work with your doctor, always follow their guidance, and always report any significant changes or concerns. Now let us bring everything together. Conclusion. We have covered a lot of ground in this video, and I want to leave you with a clear summary of everything we discussed, because when it comes to blood pressure, clarity is everything. If you have been getting high readings at home, there are many possible reasons, and most of them have nothing to do with your actual blood pressure. Here is what we learned. First, always rest for 5 full minutes before measuring. Any activity, even light walking, raises your pressure temporarily. Give your body time to settle. Second, make sure your cuff fits your arm correctly. A cuff that is too small gives falsely high readings. Measure your arm and check the cuff size. Third, keep your arm at heart level during every measurement. Too low adds points. Too high subtracts them. Heart level is accurate. Fourth, do not talk, text, or move during the measurement. Stillness is essential. Even small movements or sounds can raise your reading. Fifth, empty your bladder before you measure. A full bladder adds tension to your body and raises your pressure. Sixth, wait at least 30 minutes after eating or drinking caffeine. Digestion and stimulants both affect your numbers. Seventh, take multiple readings and average them. One reading is not enough. The average of 2 or 3 gives you a more reliable number. Eighth, address any anxiety you have around measuring. Fear of the number can raise the number. Calm breathing and a consistent routine help. Ninth, check the time of day you are measuring. Blood pressure fluctuates throughout the day. Measuring at 2 consistent times gives you the full picture. 10th, stay hydrated, especially in the morning. Dehydration causes blood pressure swings in both directions. A glass of water helps stabilize your readings. 11th, add a short walk after meals. This supports both blood pressure and blood sugar. It is gentle, easy, and effective. 12th, reduce sodium gradually, not all at once. Slow changes stick. Fast changes feel like punishment and often backfire. 13th, practice slow breathing for 5 minutes a day. This activates your calming nervous system and lowers pressure naturally. 14th, prioritize sleep, especially if you snore. Sleep apnea is a hidden cause of high blood pressure. Good sleep supports good readings. 15th, track trends, not single numbers. One high reading is not a crisis. Your average over weeks is what matters. 16th, build a consistent routine and trust it. Same time, same place, same steps. Consistency removes variables and gives you reliable data. 17th, remove tight clothing before measuring. Never roll your sleeve up tightly. Bare skin gives the most accurate reading. 18th, keep your back fully supported against the chair. Sitting on the edge engages muscles and raises pressure. Sit all the way back. 19th, do not cross your legs during measurement. Crossed legs restrict blood flow and raise your reading. Keep both feet flat on the floor. 20th, measure in a room with a comfortable temperature. Cold rooms cause blood vessels to constrict and readings to rise. Warm up the space first. 21st, avoid alcohol for at least 12 hours before measuring. Alcohol causes a rebound effect that elevates morning blood pressure. 22nd, consider seasonal changes. Blood pressure naturally runs higher in winter and lower in summer. This is normal. 23rd, add potassium-rich foods to your routine. Potassium helps your body flush sodium and relaxes blood vessels. Both effects lower blood pressure. 24th, include simple strength exercises for long-term benefit. Wall push-ups and chair squats improve blood vessel health over time. 25th, understand that blood pressure and blood sugar often move together. Managing one often helps the other. Consider monitoring both. 26th, do not check too often. Over-monitoring creates anxiety. 1 or 2 sessions per day is enough. That is everything. If you follow these steps, you will get blood pressure readings that actually reflect what is happening inside your body. No more fake highs. No more unnecessary worry. No more medication adjustments based on numbers that were never accurate in the first place. You will have real data, and real data leads to real solutions. Here is my request before you go. If you found this video helpful, please share it with someone who needs it. A family member, a friend, a neighbor, anyone over 50 who measures their blood pressure at home. You could help them avoid years of confusion and unnecessary stress. And if you have not subscribed yet, now is the perfect time. I make calm, practical videos on blood pressure and blood sugar for adults over 60. No fear, no hype. Just clear, simple information you can use right away. Drop a comment below with your age and your usual blood pressure range. Let me know which tip surprised you the most. I read every comment, and your feedback helps me create videos that truly help people. Thank you for watching. Thank you for trusting me with your time. Take care of yourself. Be patient with yourself. And remember, your health is not defined by one number on one day. It is built by small, steady habits over time. You are already doing something right just by being here. Keep going. I will see you in the next video.